Well, welcome into a Wednesday edition. It is Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason talking about interest in running backs, Mace. And I say that plural, not only because we're going to talk about multiple backs, but I don't know about you, buddy, but I think the Broncos are going to, they're going to get multiple backs when all is said and done in this draft. Maybe that's one drafted, one undrafted, but two backs might be a thing.
2 and 2. We kept talking about it with tight end and running back. Well, it might end up being one tight end, of course, with Evan Engram already in the building. But two running backs, it appears to be a very real possibility as the Broncos look for the power back and the joker back. The first and second down back to move the chains, and the third down type back, the back in space to catch passes, the back who can be the dynamic element. They're looking for all things from a running back class that, as George Payton said, the scouting combine has a lot of flavors.
Yeah, a lot of flavors to get to. You see on the beautiful thumbnail there, Quinshon Judkins, Ohio State. I know a lot in our chat and our YouTube comments down below. Thank you for doing that. People talk about Trevion Henderson all the time, but Judkins, more power, maybe not as much speed or quickness, Mace, but he'll show you some speed on film as well. Judkins is a player, whether it was Ole Miss or Ohio State, he was getting it done.
He was getting it done. I mean, obviously, I think the speed element with him is going to be overlooked because of who his teammate is. And I think that the thing with him, why sometimes I say, okay, do you trade back? Maybe you get another pick. Can you recreate what Ohio State had? The dynamic with him and Trevion Henderson works so well that sometimes I think it's worth asking, hey, can you put that band back together? Put that band back together behind an offensive line that, per ESPN Analytics, run block win rate was the best in the NFL. I'm intrigued by that idea.
Yeah. I am as well. I think we had the off-air conversation, but we'll bring it on air now. I like both of those Ohio State backs because they have worked in the committee, and they are guys that if Henderson was just the man, he could have been the man. If Judkins was the man at Ole Miss, and like he could have easily been the man for the Buckeyes, but they split time and they were happy about that. Plus, it creates a low mileage situation compared to, yes, even my man crush in Ashton Jinke, who had, 700 carries or whatever. Both these guys have more tread on the tires.
Yeah, and that's something that may come into consideration. Now, Ashton Jinke, you may be able to say, okay, is he a unicorn on the lines of Derrick Henry? That's
sure
one thing that does come into the discussion. Every now and again, you do find a running back who's just unique. He may well be unique. But the tread on the tires conversation, look, I mean, we don't have to go too far back into Broncos history to see when they picked an incredibly productive running back from the college level who had a lot of touches and it didn't work out. Now, there were other factors involved with Monte Ball, who the Broncos took in the second round 12 years ago. But certainly he had a great many carries coming out of Wisconsin and only lasted a couple of years. Again, other factors turned out he was dealing with alcoholism, and that was something that portended a short lifespan for his career. Something that he's had to deal with and overcome in his life. But that is something where you look at the workload, and does it tip the scales a little bit, perhaps? And does it maybe make you think longer and harder about running backs who've been in a committee situation because they're fresher? And with Quinshon Judkins, I mean, if we don't want to get too much into the time speed, although it is something you do consider, when you look at the fact that he's 4'8" at 221 pounds, and Trevion Henderson is 4'3" at 202.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, for 19 pounds, that's not a lot of difference there. 5/100ths of a second.
Right. I've always said it. Terrell Davis was like a 4.5, 4.6 guy. Jerry
Yeah.
Rice was a 4.5, 4.6 guys. You could run away, and they're different body types, Mace. But I know you've experienced this watching film as well. When sometimes Judkins would get the ball and he'd burst in the open field, it was
Hmm.
almost to rub your eyes like, is that Henderson? It looks like Judkins. Is that Henderson? Because of the speed. Like Judkins has legit speed. Just people focus on his power because he's such a bruising and powerful back. He chooses violence, but I also like the fact that he chooses vision as well.
Well, frankly, one of the first things I noticed about Judkins watching him in the playoff was how he blocked.
It's got to
And
catch the Broncos' attention too.
yeah, like that was something actually. It caught my eye, and then I actually got a text from Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post, like saying, "Oh, I bet you Sean Payton noticed that too." Like
Parker knows.
I think it perked everyone up looking at looking at that sort of moment, right? Like, whoa, it was one of those things where it's like it's worth kind of putting in the you take certain things that you observe, because we can't watch every college game, right? You just can't when you're covering an NFL team, but you try to see certain players when you get the chance to. I mean, I can think of certain runs, certain moments with a Marion Hampton. I can say, okay, I'm just going to put that in my Rolodex. Like there were moments that block in the quarterfinal round of the CFP. It was one moment just kind of stuck in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna remember that. Like that's certain things that where their traits come to the fore, and you're like, okay, that's the sort of thing where you think, all right, if the coaches are sitting there and they're in meetings and they've got the game on in the background as they're getting ready for an opponent or whatever, and like, ooh, whoa, where do players start popping on the players' prospects start popping on the radar for them? That's usually how it happens.
Yes.
And that's sometimes the genesis of ending up picking a guy, of
Right.
liking a guy. It's like you're sitting there, you're in a meeting, or you're in a hotel ballroom or whatever, night before an NFL game. Whoa, I saw that. Like, and then you end up picking him.
Yep. Goes into the Rolodex, as you say, and Judkins could certainly be a pick for the Broncos. Reminds me of Brian Robinson with the Commanders. So, got shades of that. DJ Giddens also, if we talk about the 30 visits for the Broncos, I'm not saying Amon Green, but when I think of slashers, guys that take almost like SGA angles and cuts sometimes, Giddens reminds me of Amon Green. He's not the same player. I feel Green had more bulk to him, but Giddens is a guy that's a slasher and can make you miss in angles that you're not expecting him to take. So a couple of backs, we're going to get to more as well, Mace, but we talk about Judkins and Giddens. I like the eye that the Broncos are showing in terms of bringing these guys in to get an extra look at them.
Another guy with some speed as well, 4.43 that he ran at the combine as well. Good 10-yard split that he had. And it's funny, if we're talking about kind of the measurable traits, we talk about size. Now he kind of comes in right there in between Henderson and Judkins at 212 on a 6-foot frame. So it's interesting. You're trying to say, okay, what type of running back are the Broncos looking at here? And you start going down the list of saying, okay, who are the Broncos talking to? Like, we can't get a feel for everybody the Broncos are meeting with just yet, but we can, we know that, at the combine, for example, that they met with Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, or Marion Hampton from North Carolina. We know they've chatted with Henderson because you asked him specifically. Jordan James from Oregon, Ashton Genty, Caleb Johnson from Iowa, Devin Neal. They've had multiple contact points with, Senior Bowl and a formal meeting at the combine. Brashard Smith, who's obviously more of a pass catcher that you might be able to get round 3, round 4 out of SMU. Cam Scattaboo had a formal at the combine. Giddens, Judkins, those are among the 30 visits. Jaden Blue of Texas is going to be a 30 visit. He confirmed that to SEC Network this week. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt was a contact point at the Shrine. I'm bringing all these up to say, like, you can't put all these guys into one box.
Right.
That's the interesting thing. Like, if we were able to say, oh, they're talking a bunch of power backs, it'd be one thing.
Right.
This is the all flavors thing that George Payton says. Like, the fact that they have not signed a running back as we sit here today, more than 2 weeks past the legal tampering period beginning, that they haven't addressed. It's the same conversation that we had at quarterback last year. That, remember, they didn't trade for anybody, they didn't sign anybody. And people are like, oh, what are they doing? I mean, they've only got Jared Stidham. Oh my gosh. Remember all that? Like,
oh yeah, wringing of hands.
Yeah. Well, it turned out they picked up a guy right before the draft. They found their answer in the draft, and they were okay. It's the kind of confidence that you can have when you realize that the draft has enough answers, even for where you sit in your draft pick position. Now, running back is not like quarterback. You don't necessarily have to get your answer in round one. Like we were talking about with Chad Ryder earlier this week when I asked him, okay, you've got Cam Scatterboot mocked to the Broncos in round 4. Do you see him as an instant contributor? And he said, yeah, like if you're taking a running back in the first 4 rounds at any point, they're going to step in and help right away. They're going to be instantly a part of that. So I think the Broncos, the work they had done on the running back position before the legal tampering period. So that's the touch points, the contact points at the Shrine, the Senior Bowl, and the Combine, those formal meetings. So we know they met with at least 10 running backs formally at the Combine, that they had enough information by that point to where they said, this free agent running back class, we're cool here. We're good with the guys that are coming in the draft. We're going to be able to find our answers. We're okay. Kind of like they came out of the Combine last year, having met formally with the quarterbacks. And while they did investigate Sam Darnold, Sam Howell, they kicked the tires on some potential offers. Those were only in the Zach Wilson type of range, right? Where they were looking for another guy to, potentially compete. They weren't talking about guys being actual long range starters. They knew they were going to find their answer in the draft. So I think they came out of the Combine knowing they were going to find their answer in the draft. Yep. Just like last year. I think if you're kind of reading things, that's the one thing you can read, that they felt good enough coming out of the Combine based on the information they already had to where they liked this class enough to where they believe that even at 20 or round 2 or round 3, that the answers they seek and they need to get what they need, that what they want out of this running game in 2025 to transform things and turn a negative into a positive and allow this team to take the next step in getting back to the top of the division and beyond, that they're confident it can come from this draft, whatever flavors they end up getting out of the ice cream chest.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's 2, Mace, because of the flavors that they're looking at. And my heart says running back in the first. I love running back. It's a position that they desperately need. However, with the strength of this class and everyone they're looking at, Judkins in the second, and then Jaden Blue in the 4th or 6th, maybe if he lasts that long. He's your answer if you don't get Brashard Smith, because he's more of a Kyron Williams, Blake Watson type of back. You already got Blake Watson, but the fact they're bringing in Jaden Blue for a top 30 visit makes me go, okay, that's a change of pace guy. In addition, Judkins can be your main starter. Your next guy might be your change of pace guy, whether it's a Brashard Smith or Jaden Blue.
Who goes first, Blue or Neal?
Boy, Chad told us at the Shrine, like, Neal's going to be a 5th rounder. And
Yeah.
I personally, not that I would be offended, but I'm like, he's a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
But it seems like Brashard Smith would go before Devin Neal.
Well, I think the thing on Brashard, like, or Blue or Neal, not
Blue. Neal, boy, whoa, now you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I love Devin Neal. I'd say Neal over Blue, though.
Okay. Yeah, the thing with Smith is, like, he has something he does exceptionally well in the pass game. And that's probably why, like, that one premium skill set is kind of putting him a little bit higher. Neal's more all around. Like, I mean, because I think Judkins and Smith working together could be something pretty exceptional. But I like the idea of Judkins and Neal and Judkins and Blue as well, as far as skill sets that mesh. Like, Judkins and Smith, though, could be like, whoa. And I'm a real fan of Brashard Smith as well. Like, and the thing about him is, I mean, I can point back to some plays at Senior Bowl practice as well, where it's not just, we talk about the pass catching, but he's got vision in the run game as well. And he showed that at SMU last year. I mean, he was a dynamic player on the ground. So, he was a dynamic player on the ground, and it's basically his first year as a running back. So what can you do when you give him a little more time? Right. So there's some exciting things. And of course, with Brashard, as he detailed when I asked him at the Combine about it, his Combine interview, a lot of it was focused, his Combine interview with the Broncos, his formal interview, a lot of it was focused on Joker type concepts. That was kind of what they were going over with him as far as how he might be used in this offense.
Yeah, that's fascinating what this team could do. Mace, programming note, you got to run to the airport and I got to run to the studio, but let's put up our tracker and you got to tell folks where they can find out more information directly from you. And, has it well sourced as well, where these reports are coming from. The pre-draft meeting and interview tracker. It's fascinating. It doesn't mean they're automatically going to take any of these guys, but it's just fascinating to know who they're talking to.
Yeah, if you go to denversports.com, you can find our pre-draft meeting and interview tracker. And took some time this week, just went through some of our interviews, went through some Combine transcripts, just went through social media, some reports. So just some reports from other sources as well. So it's just a compendium of reports, of things from interviews, things players have said, of things where we've found out players with whom the Broncos have spoken. Everything from Combine formal interviews, 30 visits, to just some conversations at the Hula Bowl, the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, etc. So, I mean, it's just kind of putting it all in one place. There, I mean, we've got 60 plus names on there, and it kind of runs the gamut from, top guys like Ashton Genty and Marion Hampton to players who are going to be undrafted, and basically adding to that every day. So it's just kind of a one-stop place. And then you can kind of follow the links from there to the various reports on social media and news reports and all that. There, some from us, because some of them, come from the conversations that Cecil Lammy and I have had with players. Some come from, the Denver Post, Mike Kliss, Tony Pauline has a few of them out there, even some kind of obscure ones, kind of floating around some of the pro days as well. I tried to kind of go and search for as many as I could find that were out there. And there were some that I missed that I learned about just, digging around some corners of the interwebs and social media, as it were. So kind of check all that out. And I kind of just want to get to the bottom of just how much was out there, stuff that I'd missed. So it's kind of a good place to kind of just get a feel for, the spectrum of it. This is not, by no means, we're not going to be able to find out all 30 of the Broncos 30 visits. We're not going to be able to find out probably, everyone with whom the Broncos talked at the combine, but I believe there are 22 names of people with whom the Broncos spoke at the combine, and there are 45 formal interviews. So you're basically able to find out half the players the Broncos had formals with at the combine. So you can kind of draw something from that. So you can check that out at denversports.com and probably be updated.
List.
Yeah, basically being updated kind of every day at this point, probably every day the rest of the week, and then it'll probably settle down after this week, I would imagine.
You would imagine. Pro days happening. Ashton Genty today.
Yeah.
Mace, we got to get out of here. Travel safe, my friend. I will
All right.
Same, shorter distance. But either way, how do folks help us out on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at C Salami saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.